Hey, Shaka King Black, happy Memorial Day. Hey, Miss Hogg, how you doing? Well, you guys, I might as well go on and get started. I hope that you guys are going to have a happy Memorial Day. I hope that you have had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Positive vibes, conflict resolution, spirit. That's right. So today I wanted to talk about, I haven't done one of these videos in a while, but there are a couple of very interesting things going on in this country right now, right? So we've had two fires in the last week of plantations, right? And so I got to thinking, and of course there are a lot of videos going on about it. And so I wanted to give my point of view as it pertains to we are seeing these these going away of old cycles, old horrific cycles, things that have caused trauma generationally as it pertains to melanated people, right? So, per the title of my video, let me explain if you don't know what the year of the nine is. The year of the nine is that we're in the end of a cycle. And when you're end of a, well, we've had the full moon cycle first. Now we've got the end of the year of the nine. The year of the nine is the number nine is the in numerology. It's the number of completion, right? So we are also at the end of a cycle, the new cycle. Um, as well as the cycle of the new moons begin in 2026. So this is the year of completion, the year of the nine, right? And so because we're in the year of nine, we see a lot of things going on in the country as well as around the world, right? So I just want to talk about a couple of them, right? So, and the things that I want to talk about pertain to the history of melanated people. And one of those things, and this is my point of view, and one of those things is the catching fire of one of the largest remaining plantations in the South. Hey, CMAC TV, and that plantation is called the Nottaway Plantation in Louisiana, right? So the Nottoway Plantation has a horrific past, and I think that via the end of completion, that our ancestors are done with a whole lot of things, and some of these relics of pain, some of these relics of dysfunction, some of this ground that has never been consecrated and done away with. Spirits, energy, and spirits are still held within these plantations of our ancestors, right? So let's talk about the Nottoway Plantation first, right? A lot of people were attributing this fire to the Annabelle doll, right? Now, see, I kind of don't agree with that. The reason why I don't agree with that is because you never give your ancestral power away to some demonic portal, right? And so when they're tying the world the U.S. tour of this Annabelle doll, right? Which I do believe the doll is demon possessed. I do believe that the doll was locked in a case and consecrated, never to be opened again, because it is a portal. And so when you take this doll out of this case and it's been consecrated and they ask you not to open it, a lot of crazy things will begin to happen. That's true, right? But as it pertains to this, I don't think that this has anything to do with that demonic entity, not that doll. In my opinion, it has to do with the year of the nine and the year of completion. Many people believe that our people were placed under a 400-year curse as well, and we know that that 400-year curse is now done and over with. It's up, it's complete, right? And so you have a lot of, I think that as it pertains to our ancestors, you have a lot of uh, ancestors that couldn't go on to their final resting place because of trauma, and they're kind of stuck. And that's why when I heard about the Nottaway Plantation burning, they said that some people say that they even took pictures of spirits in the windows, looking out. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sad because our ancestors finally, want a chance to be set free, right? This plantation was so they said it once had up to 155 plus working slaves. They say when the mansion was built, it was built by these 155 slaves, right? But it doesn't tell the number of our ancestors that passed away via the building of this monstrosity, right? This monstrosity of hate, right? So we don't know at any point in time how many actual slaves, worked this land. And not to mention that the plantation was a sugarcane plantation. And as it pertains to the sugarcane plantation versus something like, say, a cotton plantation, the sugarcane plantations were very, 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 very cruel and bitter because they had to work those fields 24 hours a day to press the sugar from the sugar cane, right? So it was very, very grueling work. You got no time off, as opposed to like something like a cotton plantation. That was grueling work, we know as well. But at least you got time between harvesting. And when daylight fell, you couldn't pick any cotton. It wasn't that way on a sugar cane plantation. That was a 24 hours a day, high maintenance plantation. So the plantation was built by this guy by the last name of Randolph. The person that gave it to him was his wife's father, along with 20 slaves, and I think like $20,000 or something like that. And he thought that he was going to do the cotton plantation, right? But instead, he decided to do sugar cane. So we don't know how many of our ancestors' souls were taken via this plantation, the running of this plantation. They also said, as it pertains to the Nottaway Plantation, a lot of horrific things, a lot of other horrific things happened on that plantation besides, the grueling conditions of tending to the sugar cane, right? Hey, food junkie, top three plantation in U.S. history was a sugar cane, cotton, and tobacco. Right, that you're absolutely right about that. And on the side note, the tobacco was grown mostly in the Carolinas and those states right there. Louisiana was a perfect place to grow sugar cane because of the weather conditions. It was very, very hot. That's why you had a lot of sugar plantations in places like Jamaica, in places like that, because of the conditions. They were perfect to grow sugar cane. And like I said, it was a 24-hour a day job. If you worked these sugar cane plantations, there was no rest. There was a high rate of turnover, if I can say it that way. And as soon as a slave, fell to his bitter end, that slave was replaced. That's why I said they don't really know, in my opinion, they can't count just 155 living slaves that they know about that worked the plantations. You also have to count the slaves that perished, not only building the mansion, but also the slaves that perished working the fields, right? And for whatever reason they perished. So there were more than, in my opinion, 155 of our ancestors working that farm on a daily basis, right? So anyway, fast forward till today, May 15th, the plantation burned down, right? So they say that on the news it said that the fire started in the museum. I thought that was very, very interesting. And they said they got the fire under control in the museum, and after that, the fire started again, which subsequently burnt the plantation to the ground, right? Now, so what I want to know is what was on that land before the plantation was put there, because some people are speculating that it may have been on at one point in time what do you call it, an American Indian and an indigenous people's burial ground. So that land wasn't consecrated. And also after they built the plantation, slaves were freed. The plantation, sit empty, for years after some people bought the plantation, and they said the people that bought the plantation, excuse me, were actually distant relatives of the Randolphs that owned the slave owners that owned the plantations originally anyway, right? So you got all of this, just like when you hear people talk about generational curses, generational trauma, you also have generational things going on in the spirit realm, right? And so they refurbished the plantation. And like I said, up until May 15th, it was the largest antebellum slave plantation, working slave plantation in the South. Hey, J. True, right? And it was still making money from still different, distant relatives of the original slave owners, which was Randolph. I can't think of his name, right? And so they're still making money, right? Not only that, they were renting out the slave quarters. Hey, food junkie, in case I didn't say that, I'm sorry if you didn't hear me say hey, but hey, and say, and so they were actually renting out slave quarters. They even refurbished the slave quarters, and they were, renting out these slave quarters as luxurious plantation life, cabins and all of this and all that, and that was code word for refurbished slave quarters. Right now, I don't know what kind of people or what kind of person you have to be to want to, kind of, did I say Uber? Airbnb a slave quarter or have a wedding on a plantation in the antebellum South. I don't know, cotton colored people, they fantasize, some of them fantasize about the antebellum South. That is weird, right? Even to this day, when it comes to places in the South, you have these Civil War reenactments, right? Even though the South lost and fell to the North, they still have these Civil War reenactments, and that is glorifying that era, right? The era of slavery, the era when the antebellum South was king or whatever, and we know that via the Steel Age, and Lincoln needing that work he needed to resource our ancestors, push us towards the north, which was when they go around saying that Lincoln freed the slaves and all of this and all that. Actually, he wanted that labor to move up north to work in the steel mills and the factories and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, I'm not praising anybody that simply moved labor from one place to another, right? And that's the history behind that, in my opinion, right? So, anyway, the May 15th, I keep getting sidetracked. I haven't done a video about this in a long time. Sorry about that, y'all. But anyway, May 15th, the mansion burned to the ground. Like I said, it started in the museum area. They put it out, it reignited. Now, one thing of note, and they don't know yet actually how the fire started. I'm going to attribute that fire to the ancestors and the year of the nine, the year of completion, right? Because it is time for us, because there is no more quote unquote curse, the 400-year curse, but because we are in the year of completion, not only as it pertains to this plantation fire. A lot of stuff is going on in this country, and a lot of people are confused about what we're seeing, right? So what we're seeing is an actual reckoning, right? That's right, a judgment of America. Thank you, CBAC TV. So when you see the nation's majority destroying its own country, you have to wonder why. Why are these people knowingly destroying its own country, right? And it's not even their country. It's just a country they colonized, right? They colonized. They brought our ancestors over here to work on, the land that was stolen from the indigenous Indians, and so that is also a year of completion. But you see it crumbling around itself because of all the blood that has been spilled in this soil that was not supposed to be spilled, all of the demonic activity, the things that the cotton colored people had to do to maintain this country, all of that we're starting to see a reckoning, right? And so when I was reading about the plantation fire and the way it burned down so completely, I was like, oh, this the ancestors doing that, right? They just said the flames were so bad. At one point in time, slavery never ended; it just shifted. Absolutely, you are correct. That model slavery is the current. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It never ends. It just morphs itself into something else. You're talking about the prison industrial complex. You're absolutely right, right? And now, not only that, you also have people in the establishment. I will say that are because they are so vicious and and disgusting. They are, oh, how should I say this? They are. I'm just gonna say they're dismantling the government a little bit at a time. Okay, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm gonna leave the video alone. Leave me away, food junkie. So anyway, it burned to the ground. They couldn't figure out why yet. And then also you have to realize that the mansion, when the mansion was refurbished, you also have to realize that some of this, the mansion is old. It was built in the 1800s. So it's going to go up like a tinderbox, whether it was refurbished or not. At the end of the day, you get a good spark on the inside, and it's going to go up like a tinderbox, right? And so, as it should, in the first place. And maybe, and perhaps, the ancestors will say, hey, let us free, give us free. The spirits that were trapped there, our ancestors that were trapped in that place because they couldn't reconcile without the trauma. They wanted to complete it. They want to finish the mission. And one thing that we know, to the spoils go to victor, right? What history doesn't want to talk about, American history doesn't wants you to think, melanated people to think that our ancestors didn't fight back, that we just stayed on these plantations for centuries, and we just, we were just so terrified that we didn't try to break free. We didn't want to fight back, right? But that is not true. In our actuality, there were many slave revolts on these plantations through the decades and the centuries. I love watching FAFO YouTube videos. FAFO, I don't know who that is. Those folks don't know what to do. Meanwhile, we are natural survivors and are sitting back there. But that's true. FAFO. What is FAFO, CMAC TV? I've seen that somewhere before. But anyway, F around and find out. Okay, I got you. I had to think about that. I know what it is. Okay. But anyway, via these centuries of trauma, a lot of our ancestors were trapped on this unconsecrated land in the first place. Not only a lot of our ancestors, I'm thinking, hey, soul sister, a lot of indigenous Indian souls were trapped on this land as well. It took me a minute to see back, right? And so, but honey, this is my Memorial Day to you guys, right? Maybe not the Memorial Day that they want people to celebrate, but a Memorial Day as it pertains to what I see going on in this country, right? That's why I want to do this video on Memorial Day, like I waited to do it all weekend, right? Specifically this morning. Anyway, so the plantation burns down. It pretty much, and then my thing is too, uh, I don't, I don't understand how something like that could be celebrated, you know. In White Castle, Louisiana, they said a lot of melanated people still worked for that, bed and breakfast or whatever. And it's possible that some of their ancestors may have, been slaves on this plantation, right? Because we know that when it comes to White Castle, Louisiana, I'm sure them folks have been there for centuries, right? A lot of black people don't move out of the South, and they play their heritage is rooted in the place where their ancestors were, right? There's a lot of them are still there, right? You are right. We are survivors. While these folks are losing. Yeah, that's right. You're right, food junkie. That's right, because we realize what's going on, right? So, but anyway, it was kind of alarming and shocking a little bit, I guess, for me to hear that any melanated person will want to work on a working plantation, right? Because there are literally still benefiting after all these centuries off of the blood, sweat, and tears of your ancestors. All of that ancestral trauma. We know that the ancestral trauma from slavery is still to this day encoded into our DNA because it was so traumatic. So what do you feel when you step on the grounds of one of these plantations? There are certain places, certain states in the South that I refuse to visit ever in life, honestly. Like Mississippi and Alabama, I refuse. I simply refuse. It would never happen, right? It would never ever happen. I'm just not gonna do it, right? And so anyway, that plantation burnt down. It is no more. It burnt down so completely that I don't think there's anything on that plantation, that the actual home and the other buildings that can be refurbed. It burnt down to the fact that they just pretty much have to knock down whatever's left, right? And so my thing is the land is still there, right? The land is still there. That means some of our ancestors are still the ones that have still not found peace. That energy is still there. That energy is still trapped there. I wish that somebody, and you know, I've seen some of the TikTok videos where a lot of melanated people were going out there and actually watching the fire, and actually paying homage to the ancestors. They were giving them libations, you know, and things of that nature. You know, like the like their own, like when you put something on the altar, you know, honoring your ancestors. A lot of them were pouring libations on the ground. They say a lot of cookouts started around the area. You know, they're pretty much celebrating, you know, the end of this plantation era, right? And so, but you had a lot of the cotton colored people, you know, up in arms saying it was a historical site and it was a beautiful place to have your weddings and those types of events and all of this and all that. That is just them fantasizing and glorifying the antebellum South. But when you get a group of people, a cotton colored people that still, you know, fantasize about the antebellum South, you know, along with the antebellum South, you know, there was slavery, right? There was not who tended to these plantations, who built to these plantations, you know, who worked these working plantations, and those people that maintained, the very people that maintained these plantations were our ancestors. So you're fantasizing about slavery? Is that what you're doing? You know, so that's weird to me, right? But a lot of the cotton colored people are upset because the plantation burned down. Like they like to have all these, you know, fancy garden parties and weddings and events, you know, graduation parties, you know, and things of that nature. They love to take the tours and all this and all of that via that plantation. But that is now gone. And I will hope that somebody will come through, even if they have to do it without permission from the landowners. I will hope that somebody melanated, one of our voodoo priests, voodoo, hoodoo priestess, or something of that nature, will come through. Not no psychic, not no medium, because you ain't doing nothing but channeling, right? I hope that one of our priests, one of our practicing priests, because we still have practicing honest hoodoo and voodoo priests in this country, and especially in Louisiana, because in my opinion, the whole state of Louisiana is a spirit portal, right? In my opinion, it's a spirit portal. So anyway, I hope that a group of these people, or even one person, will come through and consecrate this land and set our people free, set their souls at peace, so that they can go on to glory. That because I believe that that is what they want. I believe that they want to be free. I think that they are tired of their souls being trapped. They are complete. They want to make peace with the past and just go on to glory. And so I hope that one of our voodoo priests or our hoodoo priests will come through and consecrate that land and pray over that land and set our people free. That is my hope for that, right? I watched a video of the non-black tour guide at the place here. He did not follow the written script because he knew the history wasn't true. I don't understand what you mean. He told the tourists the truth. He no longer works there. Oh, he was worker there at one point in time. He was a black tour guide. Oh, he quit because they weren't telling the truth. Yeah, they want to seem like that Randolph, you know, treated his slaves very well, and all of this and all of that, which is a lie, especially as it pertains to a sugarcane plantation, because I told y'all that was more one of the deadliest types of plantations. Because when you're dealing with sugarcane, it's a 24-hour a day process. There is no downtime, so the death turnover, had to be astronomical, right? So I just can't imagine how many of our ancestors lost their lives because of that plantation right there in particular. It's just horrible, right? Yes, the owner wanted the tour guide to lie about the. Oh wow, oh yeah, yeah, I heard that. And why would they not? You know what I mean? And why? And then my thing is, I always felt like, cause y'all know I live in the South, and so I always felt like if I were to visit one of these plantations, step foot on the ground, I don't know how my mind, my body, and my spirit would react to such a thing. I don't know if I would fall ill. I don't know what happened. So I don't believe in tempting faith. And so I never, I never attempted to even step ground on any type of plantation. And I refused to go to the state of Alabama and Mississippi in particular, right? And so you couldn't take it, see back TV, right? And there's even a reason why that, but for that, right? But as far as this plantation is gone, hope somebody consecrates the land. It's about time. It's complete. It is burnt to the ground. I just want one of our priests to go along and consecrate the ground and set the rest of our people free. They said they have spotted particular ghosts. They said that some of the residents, said that, they have seen a what do you call it, a the guy that a coach, the guy that drove the carriage for the Randolph guy. He's still there. They say you can hear horses at night and chains shuffling. They say that there's a spirit of a little girl on the land and she's just running along, skipping, playing, and who knows what happened to her, but her spirit is still there. And ain't no telling how many spirits were still in the house. They've told of hauntings, all type of hauntings, and a lot of weird things going on, not on the plantation, in the big house as they would call it, as well as in some of those slave cabins, right? But that's what happens when you think that a thing is still there and something horrific happened on that ground, and you're not going to have any type of psychic energy at all. That is kind of what happens. You're going to have to deal with the consequences and repercussions of that situation. Yeah, yeah. No, I refuse to leave Brandu. I would never. You know what I mean? My head probably explode. I would never. Okay. And so that one's gone. But there's another thing. There's another plantation that they were calling a mansion in D.C., in Washington, D.C. They said it's the Navy Secretary's mansion where the Navy Secretaries would stay. But anyway, it was also a plantation. It's called the Kalorama. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The Kalorama Mansion in Washington, D.C. That also mysteriously caught fire. It also burnt to the ground. It was once a mansion, a slave plantation in D.C. And yes, there were slaves in D.C. Who do you think built D.C., right? A black man, a black slave, actually, made the plans for how D.C. was going to be, the buildings were going to be built into a Freemason type symbolism, right? And so there's energy in D.C. But anyway, that mansion slash plantation burnt to the ground as well a couple of days ago. So you have all of these things, all of these weird things going on. I think that our ancestors they are about complete, because this is the year of the nine, the end of the cycle, the end of the so-called 400-year curse, which I kind of don't believe in, but I see what they're saying. But that's another video. So all of these things are coming together at one, right? Not to mention the spiritual aspect of things, right? So you're dealing with your ancestors, you're dealing with spirits, you're dealing with things that are unresolved. And I've said this time and time again that this country, before it really faces and owns up to the atrocities that were done in this country, it will burn itself to the ground. It will destroy itself. And I think that we are seeing that. And that has nothing to do with melanated people. It's all got to do with cotton colored people, and the things that they simply cannot reconcile their mind with. That's why you got a lot of whitewashing going on in this country. If you will, it pertains to history, a whole lot of that stuff going on, right? And so the two, like I said, the two plantations, the one in D.C. as well as the one in Louisiana, they're gone, right? Completion, the year of the nine, completion, right? And so, but I just want somebody to come through and finish the job and consecrate the land as it pertains to both of these now gone forever plantations because they can't be refurbished. Some people from the historical societies are all up in arms because the plantations have now burnt to the ground and all of this and all that. Why would you want to preserve something like that in the first place? It is weird. Like I said, it's romanticizing the antebellum South and all of the horrors that took place, during that time. Okay, not only slavery, you got Jim Crow, and you have how can I put this? You have uh mm, some of the practices that affect our people, especially our men, right to this day. You guys know I did a video the other day talking about black male fragility, and some of that is due to ancestral trauma, and it's also due to misogyny, and it's also due to the need for some black people, men and women, but moreover men, wanting a proximity to whiteness, right? A lot of that has to do with that. So you got a lot of things going on in your community at one time, but you also have good things going on in your community. And unfortunately, a lot of black people don't realize a lot of the atrocities that have happened to their people in this very country. You hear young people talking about, I'm not my ancestors, basically I get with you and all this and all that. Never discount your ancestors, right? Because if it wasn't for your ancestors, you wouldn't be here, and no, you're not under the same type of threat, total foot on back, as our ancestors had to deal with, because we are we are in a different day and age. But never discount the strength of your ancestors, because without them, there would be no you. If they weren't strong enough to survive chattel slavery, there would be no you. So never say that you are not your ancestors, right? Because your ancestors were strong enough to preserve your family, you know. And so it's a blessing for you to be a part of your ancestors. And then that's just my opinion. That's just my take on it. But that's how I feel about it, right? But you have a lot of stuff going on in this country right now as it pertains to a reckoning. And I think it's a reckoning going on, right? And I find it very, very interesting that all of these things as they pertain to melanated people are going on. Olivia is. Wow, you got the same name I'm listening to Mrs. Olivia. How ironic. My name is Olivia, a.k.a. Is that your name, Angela? We got the same name. Well, all right. I think, Blue Junkie said, I think I'm the opposite. I'm spiritually aggressive because of our people. That's right. That's right, Food Junkie. You're absolutely right. Me too. They'd cut my head off, but they wouldn't even have strung me up. Child, they'd have cut my head. They'd be headed my black ass, okay? I'm not even lying to you. And so I'd have been gone. But yeah, I just found it interesting. I want to bring that to you guys because I want you to pay attention to what's going on in this country. Not only is this country imploding within on itself, that's my baby. Oh, your baby's name is Olivia. Oh, okay, all right. My name is what? Uh, I just want you guys. I just want to get my point of view as it pertains to the end of the year of the nine. We're ready to start a new cycle. a new cycle of full moons, you know, it's a perfect time for you to lay, lay to rest a lot of the traumas that you might have in your life. Because everybody has some type of trauma, right? Try to make peace with it so that you can move on to the next cycle without that old baggage, even to the point that our ancestors are even done. Yep, I wouldn't have made it. Shoot, me either, food junkie. I ain't gonna lie. Nope, 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 nope. And so, yeah, I just want to bring it to you guys' attention. So we're gonna have to see what's gonna happen next. But as far as people contributing to their Annabelle doll, I think that you are giving your ancestral power away. I don't think that it has anything to do with the Annabelle doll. But as far as the Annabelle doll is concerned, I do believe that doll is possessed and is on tour, and they should not have ever taken it out of that case because it was locked in that case. A warning was placed on it. There was a consecration placed on it. They broke the seal, and now all heck is going to break loose because that doll is on tour. But as far as what you're seeing as it pertains to our ancestors and us in particular, I don't think that that doll has anything to do with it. It is just simply our ancestors revolting once again. Right? Happened before, it's happening again, and it's going to continue to happen. Continue to happen because this country refuses to atone for its original sins, right? And so we know that there were two original sins, and they have never atoned for either one. The first original sins were how they came in and they colonized and pretty much stole this land from the indigenous peoples. And we know that the second original sin that happened in this country was the stealing of other people and turning them into chattel slaves to the extent that no other form of slavery has ever matched that has been so horrific or traumatic as chattel slavery. Even to this day, I agree. Two black girl Annabella paintings hanging in my. I have two black girl Annabelle hanging paintings. I heard that food junkie. Yeah, I don't think it's Annabelle though. Like I really don't. Even though she on tour, she might be doing a little something, something. You know what I mean? But I think that this is to me, this don't have nothing to do with Annabelle. It has to do with our ancestors, right? And so, in my opinion, and and they're trying to, lay to waste or get away with, do away with, the horrific trauma that is keeping them in this dimension, right? Especially in Louisiana, because I don't know if I said it before that I truly believe we have a lot of spirit portals um, in this country, all over the world, but in this country, the down in the Delta, Mississippi, Louisiana, Memphis, Tennessee, those places are portals and spirit portals, in my opinion. Chicago, the city of Chicago, Illinois, that's a portal as well. And there is a reason why things happen the way that they happen as it pertains to these spirit portals. And I don't know if you guys saw that movie, Sinners. We are all sinners. The fact that Ryan Coogler did such an excellent job, and the film was, the scenes it was supposed to be depicted in the Delta of Mississippi, but it was actually filmed in Louisiana. All of the spirituality going on in that movie. It said a lot to me, and I can't wait till it gets to a place where I can buy it and keep it forever, right? But it's very symbolic. And did you know that movie? I didn't know. I didn't even know that it premiered on Good Friday. I never put two and two together. And then the name of it is "We Are All Sinners," right? Right. And so the fact that there were so many metaphors, as it pertains to duality in our people, you have a lot of things going on right now. And because some of our people have such a lack of knowledge as it pertains to our past, they're missing on a lot of things, right? But I still believe that when the time comes, and there will come a time where you are forced to rely on your ancestors. Their ancestral knowledge will emerge in you, because if we are nothing else, we are survivors. We were the first on the planet, and we will be the last. And so just like I just, it's just incredible to me all the things that are going on right now, and I'm kind of happy about it. I'm glad to see a plantation gone. Okay, two of them gone, right? And I found it very interesting when people even connected the men that escaped the prison in Louisiana to the Annabelle doll. I was like, dang, they giving a lot of power to this doll. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God. Didn't that movie end in Chicago? Yes, it did. It ended in Chicago. That's right, Food Junkie. It went from the Delta to Chicago. Charles like, oh, okay, this what we doing, Ryan. Okay, Ryan done did his research. I ain't mad at him. I ain't mad at him. And so, yeah, you're right. It ended in Chicago, right? A lot of people didn't catch that. Yup, from the Delta to Chicago. And the reason why I believe the city of Chicago is such a strong portal is simply because when our people start migrating up, out of the South, a lot of them settled in Chicago. And so, as people are migrating, you got your priestess migrating. We know that a lot of our priestesses, our root workers, our hoodoo, our voodoo priestesses, a lot of them practice, behind the scenes, and they brought their magic with them, magic, and I'm using a spirituality, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. I think they brought it with them, and as a means to mask, what it was that they were doing, because a lot of people, demonize our religion. A lot of our own people, even to this day, demonize, a lot of our spiritualities, right? When it doesn't have to, um, it's just a lack of knowledge, right? Because when it comes to spirituality, in my opinion, anything that is serving God, unless you choose, not a God, but the God, the Almighty, anything that is serving the Almighty Creator, no matter what religion you want to have or what practice, because voodoo is a religion, the hoodoo is a practice, root work is a practice. It's still rooted in the Word. I'm not. It's still rooted in the Word. Just let me put it that way. Right now, I'm not talking about the cotton colored man's word. I'm talking about the actual word of the Most High Creator. And I don't like it when people push that to the side, but that is demonic in nature, because you want to give that power away. You want to give that spiritual power away to something else, and say that it simply doesn't exist at all. And that's unfortunate to me. I don't believe in doing that either. But a lot of people do. It is what it is. Problem with a lot of black folks is they don't realize that um, you got power, you got untapped power, you don't even realize it, but you're still to this day giving your power away, with the power of the tongue, because the power of the tongue is a mighty, mighty, mighty sword, right? So you can't give something away to a demon possessed doll and make it seem like the doll is causing this reckoning as it pertains to what's going on in this country right now. No, I would never give that type of power to a demon possessed doll. Do I think the doll was demon possessed? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's that they use that doll as like a conductor. The Annabelle doll, I think the demons use that doll as a conductor. I think and the reason why the doll was put back in the case in the first place, I'm gonna have to rename my title, is because it was such a demonic portal or conductor. Because whoever owned that doll at the time is susceptible to being possessed by a demon. That is why they consecrated the box that they put the demon in and locked it away and said never open it. But folks, they don't believe it stinks, so they did open it, and it is what it is. And so I think that's why a lot of people are feeling a way about that doll, but they're giving too much power to that doll. Because in my opinion, that's not what's going on. That is not what caused these two plantations fire. That is our ancestors' reckoning. That's what that is, right? And that is a way of them getting their reparations, if you will, right? Paying homage to their God that set them free, finally, right? They've been set free, but the trauma was so extreme that they simply couldn't let go of it, and so they were kind of trapped between dimensions. But as the veil lifts, I truly believe that as the veil is lifted, the spiritual veil is being lifted even more, because in my opinion, we are at the end of days as well. As that veil becomes more clearer, people, will begin to awaken from spiritual blindness. In my opinion, a lot of things are going to be revealed to people. Hey, Creole Butterfly, how you doing? I'm happy to see you. I was worried about you in those tornadoes. Creole, Miss Creole, I really was. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. If you guys came in late, I hope that you will, be part of the replay game. Please double tap the screen. And I know I don't come on as much anymore uh, because I don't want to talk about the nonsense anymore. It's not doing anything but frustrating me, and I really don't have time for uh, that type of nonsense anymore, right? I just really don't even want to deal with it because it's so redundant, and it's all just a trick to keep your mind blind anyway. And I can't use no more brain cells, for that nonsense. But I will come on. I will hit that live button when I have something like this I want to talk about or anything else, right? But it won't be that, all right? So, and then I love giving my points of view. Oh, thank you, CMAC TV. I don't mind giving my points of view on when it comes to things of this nature, and I hope that you guys will go research and find out more about these plantations, this Nottaway Plantation, as well as that Kalorama Plantation slash mansion in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of good history as it pertains to that Kalorama Mansion fire. I would be a part. Thank you, thank you, Miss Creole. Thank you. To tell you guys, Happy Memorial Day. I guess I'm gonna get out of here. I think I want to come back. I don't know if it'll be today. I want to come back and do a video on that dang on an extended conversation as it pertains to spirit portals and spiritual portals. And that dang on Annabelle doll. Because I actually had um a something that had been in my family for years and years and years, right? And every home I went to, I had that statue, in my house, and we always felt like it was something going on with that statue. Cause now I could be crazy, but it seemed like the thing moved around, So when they're talking about that Annabelle doll moving from room to room and changing positions and all of this and all that, I can believe that. I can absolutely believe it, you know. And I got tired of dealing with the thing, and I got rid of it years ago, years and years ago. But that thing, that one particular item that we had in my house, came from my grandmama's house, and the whole thing was just creepy to me. And so I don't deal with creepy, and I don't need no extras going on around here because in my house, okay, in our house, should I say, we serve the Almighty Creator. We serve the Almighty God, right? And we give him thanks for all things. And I'm not giving power to nothing else, okay, that the power don't belong to. And so that's what I feel about it. But I have to come back and do another video. I think I'm going to get back into some of the videos that I used to do a long time ago. Before I started doing videos and it, about whatever's going on in this, this child around here or whatever. But yeah, I gotta get back to my old videos. I really like talking about my old, some of the things that I used to talk about. And seeing as how there's a lot of stuff going on, there are a lot of spiritual things going on right now. I think I wanna come back, but I think I am gonna come back a little bit later on because I have been doing a lot of research on something called the Antichrist spirit, and we got a lot of fake prophets going on. You know, right now you have over 1 billion people following a beast religion, which is Catholicism, and they are just eating it up. But you got a member of a superpower leading this religion right now, which is what's his name, Pope Leo. I find that very interesting. I keep enjoying. Oh, thank you, Food Junkie. You know, I find that interesting. You know, it's a lot of stuff going on right now. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for joining me, clicking the button. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please be part of the replay game if you came in late. Please like, share, subscribe, and share the video. You guys have a nice rest of your day. Child, it is cookout time around here. Okay, the grills have been firing up. Folk done start going fishing. It's a lot going on. Okay, and those pastors are going to DC to meet Pop. Check that Pop. CMAC TV. Ooh, false prophets. Okay, false prophets. Beware those false prophets. You know, the book done told us about it. 2020 issued in the spirit of manic minds. We can hit this. We can hit this. We can hit this some other time. I heard about that, Miss Creole. I heard that. That's what I was trying to say. The spirit of manic minds. Hot dog. Ooh, thank you, C-Back TV. I see you later. But anyway, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, okay? Like I said, I might come back a little later on. Because, child, I love cookout time around here. Because all I got to do is marinate the meat, okay, and make the sides. Well, get the sides prepared, wrap it up in foil, put all the seasons on it, honey, and then the cooking is taken care of. I'll be having a lot of time, okay, a lot of time. I don't have to do all that cooking when that grill is fired up, and that's what's gonna happen today. This what happened yesterday. Folk act like they ain't never had no barbecue in their life. Oh hi. I was like, well, you look at this right here. You know, and then back in the day, we could use well, if we go to certain lakes, we still can eat that freshwater fish. But pretty much now, a lot of places are so contaminated that you can't even eat the fish no more. I don't mind getting it at the fish market or whatever, but unless we go to certain lakes, um, you know, I ain't gonna fool with no fish, but we ain't gonna fool with no fish today. All right, I know, because, child, that ain't gonna happen. But anyway, let me go. I'm rambling. I done got my mind on this, started on this cookout food, child. Okay. But anyway, I gotta go. I love you guys. Thanks for joining me. Like I said, please like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the replay game. Have a nice rest of your day. I might be back later. And I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Bye bye. Peace.